From the nightmarish cousin of the T-Rex to a massive worm that scuttled around on legs, here are 10 of the most nightmarish creatures that you'll be glad to know are extinct. Number 10. Reaper of Death. 2020 was a huge year for archaeology and paleontology in Canada. A new and horrifying dinosaur was recently found, and you'll be glad to know that it's been extinct for a very long time. It's being called the Reaper of Death, and it's a cousin to the T-Rex. It was the first new Tyrannosaurus species to be found in Canada in the last half-century. The fossils found revealed a dinosaur that ate meat with huge serrated teeth and the face of a monster. It was discovered in Alberta, home to one of the largest dinosaur deposits in the world, and luckily the dinosaur died around 79 million years ago. Don't worry, it's not going to be terrorizing our neighborhoods anytime soon. What's really amazing about the Reaper of Death is that it is so far the oldest known Tyrannosaurus on record in Canada and the northern United States. So what makes this beast so horrifying? Well, it would have stood about 8 feet tall, 2.5 meters, just at its hips, with teeth like steak knives that were over 2.7 inches, 6 centimeters long. From snout to tail, the dinosaur was 26 feet long, 8 meters. And to put that in perspective, it was about the length of 4 king mattresses put together. Unfortunately, researchers only managed to find 2 partial skulls of the dinosaur, so they were unable to put together a realistic vision of the beast. But they certainly know that back in its day, it would have been a top predator. It's also very cool to think that in 2020, researchers are still finding new and horrifying dinosaurs. Who knows what they'll find next? Number 9. 60-foot dragon. This next horrifying creature is a bit of a mystery. In a northern Chinese city, villagers came across the most peculiar remains you've ever seen. These bones are beyond mysterious, and their discovery was even filmed. However, there's a whole lot of skepticism about what the bones really are in the video. At first glance, it appears to be a 60-foot-long, 18-meter mystical dragon skeleton. It looks like a flying serpent from Chinese mythology. However, it's an impossible animal. There's no way something like this could have ever existed. In traditional Chinese mythology, dragons don't actually have wings and instead fly by swimming through thin air. And this looks exactly like one of those dragons. It has no wings, a giant skull, and 2 little arms like a Tyrannosaurus rex. The big mystery here, of course, is whether the skeleton is real or if it was a hoax. There's absolutely no information on where the dragon creature could have come from, or what happened to its remains after they were first discovered and the video was posted online. Of course, it could theoretically be a real animal like some kind of massive unknown snake that went extinct millions of years ago. And in fact, it could have been that a government agency got a hold of the bones and covered them up to avoid a global controversy. The truth is that scientists just don't know. Although it's very cool to think that this kind of creature could have lived in our world thousands or millions of years ago. What do you think? Is it real or a hoax? Tell me your thoughts on this dragon skeleton in the comments below. Then be sure to subscribe to American Eye for more informative videos just like this one. Number 8. Worm with legs. It's often difficult to understand just what an animal looked like 400 million years ago. Even when there are fossils to study, it still takes a lot of guesswork to properly put together an extinct animal. For example, scientists had been studying a tiny worm with legs for over 50 years before they finally discovered which part of the worm was used as a head. This curious creature is known as a hallucigenia, and it's a miniature monster. It was first discovered in 1977 by a British paleontologist when looking through old fossils taken from the Canadian Rocky Mountains. The creature had previously been labeled as a type of earthworm, but when this paleontologist began to study it, he realized that it was something altogether different and horrifying. The organism actually walked on 7 pairs of thin legs, with a back filled with strange tentacles. To even try and imagine what this beast looked like, a person would need to be on some serious psychedelic substances. But the weirdest part is that he was right. This bizarre worm really was covered in tentacles. Not only that, but 50 years after its discovery, scientists finally discovered which part of the animal was the head. By using a special electron microscope, scientists discovered that this horrifying worm had a pair of eyes on one end with a huge mouth of sharp teeth. Apparently, the teeth were used for digestion, while the tentacles on the organism's back were used for self-defense. Basically, this was a terrifying walking worm that lived 400 million years ago, and you should be thankful that it's not still alive to scare you senseless in your garden. Number 7. The Mega Crocodile. Everyone knows that crocodiles have been around for a very long time. They are some of the oldest reptiles on our planet. They're also some of the most dangerous creatures living today. But if you think the average crocodile is dangerous now, you should count yourself lucky you weren't living 130 million years ago. According to a report from the BBC, the largest crocodile ever was just uncovered in Tunisia. Not only is it longer than a great white shark, but it has a skull larger than a small person. This mega crocodile was over 30 feet, 9 meters in length, roughly about the size of a bus. This makes it the biggest extinct type of crocodile ever found. The monster was so big that it could have eaten anything it came across. According to one of the researchers from the University of Bologna, the crocodile would have been an opportunistic predator, meaning that it had a pretty varied diet. It had teeth used for crushing hard material, so it could have eaten anything from turtles to fully grown dinosaurs. Interestingly enough, the team of paleontologists had been digging in Tunisia for 7 years before they came across the croc's huge skull. Normally, they only discovered tiny remnants of teeth or bone, but finally they found the mega crocodile, and life will probably never be the same. Just imagine a crocodile the size of a bus wandering around your neighborhood, eating cats and cars alike. Number 6. Short-faced bear. Anyone who lives in the wilderness of Canada or the northern United States has probably had at least one run-in with a bear. But these are usually peaceful encounters. Maybe the bear wanted to steal your food while camping, or maybe it just dug into your garbage for something to eat. Even though grizzly bears and black bears are pretty big, they aren't really that big of a danger to modern humans. But all that could be different if the giant short-faced bear still existed today. And let me tell you why this horrifying creature would have been a nightmare. First of all, the short-faced bear was enormous. It was also known as the bulldog bear, and most scientists agree that it was the fastest bear that ever lived, able to run at over 40 miles per hour, even though it weighed upwards of 1,500 pounds. This bear was an apex predator with a thirst for blood. It had longer legs than any modern bear, and it stood about 12 feet tall, 3.6 meters. Plus, it was better adapted to walking on its hind legs, kind of making it like a big, mean Sasquatch. But there's even more to this monstrous creature. Unlike many modern bears that eat honey and fish, this bear was a savage carnivore. It had a strong bite that could crush bones to reach the marrow within. Luckily, it went extinct somewhere near the end of the last ice age. Number 5. Giant rhinoceros. The giant rhinoceros was a prehistoric mammal like no other. It was vastly different from modern rhinoceroses, and even different from the woolly rhinoceros. In fact, it kind of looked like a modern rhino mixed with a woolly rhino, with a long coat of shaggy hair and an extremely long horn on its head that could be used to impale even the biggest dinosaur. This was a seriously formidable rhino that lived about 29,000 years ago. The youngest skeletons ever were recently found inside of a Siberian cave, and scientists believe they were dragged there by an even more aggressive and more dangerous mysterious predator. Some scientists say it could have even been early humans who hunted these giant beasts nearly 30,000 years before today. Giant rhinoceroses roamed throughout Europe, and they lived on Earth only for a span of about 2.6 million years. But the reason they deserve a spot on this nightmare list is because they were so big. The giant rhinoceros was nearly the size of a mammoth, which is actually unheard of. This is substantially larger than a modern rhino. Basically, picture a rhino the size of an elephant, except with a horn over 7 feet long, 2 meters. That could literally rip a person in half. This is not the kind of animal you'd want to run into on an African safari. Number 4. Quetzalcoatlus. Now it's time for the most nightmarish animal that ever took to our skies. I'm talking about the Quetzalcoatlus, one of the hardest names on the earth to pronounce. This winged beast ruled the skies of North America at the end of the last age of the dinosaurs, living above such creatures as the Tyrannosaurus and the Triceratops. But this was no bird. It was a totally unique species. The Quetzalcoatlus was the ultimate evolution of the pterosaur. If you're not sure what a pterosaur is, or was, they were basically flying reptiles. Picture giant lizards with wings. Out of all these fierce beasts, the Quetzalcoatlus was king. It lived for around 80 million years with a pointed skull, a long neck, very long legs, and wings that would make an eagle look like a hummingbird. The Quetzalcoatlus was almost like a flying giraffe. It even stood the same height as a giraffe. Only it was extremely dangerous. It could swoop down at any moment and pick off any animal that it wanted to eat, from small raptors to larger fish. It was also a master of the skies. It could leap into the air with one hard push, flap its wings a few times, then travel non-stop for almost as long as it wanted without ever needing to flap its wings. Number 3. Smilodon. The Smilodon is undoubtedly the most famous prehistoric animal ever. It's known commonly as the saber-toothed tiger, and even though it was likely a beautiful feline back in its day, we should all be happy that this animal does not exist anymore. Saber-toothed cats lived from about 56 million to 11,000 years ago, according to Britannica. Out of all the different big cats back then, the Smilodon was the most frightening. It lived in North and South America, it was roughly the size of a modern African lion, and it represented the pinnacle of saber-toothed evolution. It had upper canine teeth that grew to be at least 8 inches, 20 centimeters long. The cat used its massive teeth for stabbing animals to death like the legendary mastodon. When it comes to the best fossil evidence of these huge animals, we have the La Brea tar pits to thank. Many perfectly preserved fossils have been found in the tar pits, as the cats likely tried to eat other animals that had gotten stuck, only to get stuck themselves. Number 2. Megalania. The Megalania was kind of like a Komodo dragon, only more terrifying. This was the biggest monitor lizard to live in Australia 2.5 million years ago. And when I say big, I mean really big. This massive reptile was roughly the size of an average saltwater crocodile from today. It grew to be around 23 feet, 7 meters in length, and it even had a venomous bite. This was a bigger, more dangerous, and more toxic version of a Komodo dragon. Imagine if this thing still existed today, specifically in the same region where Komodo dragons are now. Not a single human would be able to get on the island of Komodo, cause, you know, a big and aggressive monitor lizard would bite them in half. Back in its day, the Megalania fed primarily on giant flightless birds. It used its venomous bite to take the animals down, then it would track them until the venom made them easier to kill. Because of their bulk, the Megalania would have made way too much noise to be good at stalking. Just like a modern crocodile, this huge lizard would have sat and waited for something to get close before lashing out and biting. What's really interesting about this giant monitor lizard is how it went extinct. One theory says that the Megalania died off when it became too big and there was not enough food to sustain its diet. The population slowly declined and extinction became inevitable. Number 1. Allosaurus. I think we can all agree that the world is better off, at least for humans, without carnivorous dinosaurs. Given how much technology we have right now, they wouldn't be a big threat. But still, nobody wants a bunch of hungry dinos trampling around in their front yard. One dinosaur that you especially don't want in your front yard is the Allosaurus. This was one of the very first dinosaur discoveries, and there's been plenty of evidence throughout the years for paleontologists to work with. This has made the Allosaurus one of the most popular dinosaurs in the world. The Allosaurus lived during the late Jurassic period. It was a huge carnivore that rivaled the T-Rex, growing up to 43 feet, 13 meters in length, from the tip of its tail to the front of its nose. It was one of the most ferocious predators that ever walked this earth, with an outstanding life expectancy of up to 28 years. And according to Live Science, the dinosaur weighed at least 3,300 pounds. This thing would leave some seriously annoying footprints in your front yard. Plus, it'd probably chew up and spit out your car. Oh yeah, and if one of them decided to hunt you down, there isn't much you could do to get away. The Allosaurus could run at up to 21 miles per hour. Which of these extinct monsters is the most terrifying to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to come back soon, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more amazing videos right here on American Eye.